Hello, and welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about this really an interesting other channel that I've been following called Space Cadet right now. And the Canadian woman who's running it is really based in Redfield, and she really helped me to break out of my shell again and talk about some things that I found were super relevant to what she was talking about. And she was talking about how today in the media, we often find, not just the media, but all around us, we often see like this huge storm of memes that all point to the same direction. So supposedly you'd see a poster about rape culture. That's what she was talking about. And then you go online and there'd be a lot of like celebrities and there'd be a lot of people at the same time in a period of maybe like 1 or 2 days, maximum like 3 or 4 days, that would all start talking about the same thing. Like it's all completely orchestrated. And she was calling those things updates. It made me think of upgrades from movie Robots. Anyways, but yeah, updates. And the updates are, that's what she calls when that storm of information, of memetics that are all pointed in the same direction and all trying to basically shift everyone's consciousness or everyone's opinion about something really drastically, really fast and it's usually very traumatic, like super traumatic. And I think she had really similar experiences as me in the past few years concerning everything that's been happening, and so it's really interesting. And so I just wanted to talk about one thing that I think was completely faked, and I have some evidence for it, but I can't prove it completely, but I just have this really huge hunch that like all of this was completely orchestrated in order to just radicalize women mostly into feminism. So the update was about Brock Turner, the Stanford rapist, as they called him. Wow, a huge series of events happened. It was at the time where Facebook had the little news sidebar, where there were like 3 stories, and I tracked so many of their stories, and it was like Anne Frank, like 60% of the time. Seriously. It was like Anne Frank was always being mentioned. It was so weird. Anyway, I digress. Brock Turner came up, everyone was following it. I had people saying that they were obsessed with the story. They were completely, really enraptured by this rape story. I'm going to tell you about it from what I remember, because I feel like if I'm going to look up online like stories, it's going to like mess me up, because it's like they're going to change it a billion times, or I don't know. I'm just staying away from it for right now. It was about this girl, and it was at one point they released her story from her side, who went to a party on campus, and I'm not sure if it was a frat house or if it was just like a bro house, you know, they have those. And in the bro house there was Brock Turner, and he had said during the party, I'm getting some pussy tonight or something. Like he said, I'm getting laid tonight no matter what. Already we're starting like that. Like people say that in real life, I guess. I mean, sure. And she heard that. I guess she was like, oh, that's weird. And then she and the people at the party, I don't think she even knew a lot of the people. I think she got abandoned by one of her friends, typically. I mean, typically as for the story, but maybe that's typical as well. And then she gets blackout drunk. That's basically where we're at. And I think he was drinking as well. But so then at one point she ends up near this dumpster bin. And now I'm not exactly sure what time of day this was at, but people usually party like at 6, 7, 8. Like people go at where I went to university, people partied really late. Like they started partying at like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. So I'm imagining that at the point where you're blackout drunk, you're probably like, I don't know. My gosh, it's probably like 8 or 9 o'clock. What is it? Not the summer, because there's university. So it's getting fall. It's probably getting dark out, you know? And she passes out near this dumpster. and it must stink of dumpster, you know? And Brock Turner slithers over and happens to rape her, somehow moving her body and his drunken body, and she ends up raped by him. And in the midst of the rape, or right after, 2 Scandinavian cyclists see what's going on. Like, what is this? Like, I remember being like, this is really weird, you know? Like, what are they doing on campus or near campus? Like, it was so random. And supposedly they had gotten some help while Brock Turner was pulling up his pants and, you know, dashing away, although he was drunk. I'm not exactly sure what happened there. And then the next thing the girl knew, she was waking up in the hospital, and she was like, what happened to me? And then they were like, oh my God, you know, you're raped. And then she was like traumatized. And it was a big deal, you know, and everyone reading this was like, oh my God, this is the worst thing in the entire world. Which, I mean, it is really bad if this is true. But I just get the, like, weirdest feeling that this was very orchestrated, like, this was very constructed to be exactly what it's supposed to be. Because I have a feeling that a lot of rape stories are not crazy, gross like that, like rape by a dumpster. I mean, probably, I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but it just sounds like it's so strange because of also the next stuff that happened. So the next, you know, there's a bunch of stuff. They didn't want to release Brock Turner's picture yet because of issues. Like, they had this old picture of him, but they didn't have his mugshot. And they kept on updating the article. Like, it was like the Stanford rapist craze for like a week or almost 2 weeks. It was all people were looking at. The sidebar was always showing it up, you know? There was nothing else happening in the world. Like, nobody was getting raped. Anybody else. It was like this 2 people that you need to really focus on. So then later on, there was like the girl who released her sob story about it. Well, what happened, and it was in court and all that. Everything was released. Literally everything was released except for Brock Turner's side of the story. Because he probably can't talk because he's probably just being used. And there was the whole thing about him like being like, oh, is he going to be on the swim team again? And it was like, no, because he's a rapist. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Lol. And then his father came out with like this sob, like, no, my son is not a rapist, and this is a mistake. And then he said the words, why would my son be punished in jail for like 6 months or a year for 20 minutes of action? He said that. That was like, you know, the feminists picked up on that, and they were like, oh, MFG, like, this is the most misogynistic thing I've ever read in my life. This guy needs to be hanged. And that was that. I mean, I was turning into a feminist at that point because I was like, this is pretty crazy. I am emotionally traumatized. I didn't know that rape culture was real kind of thing. Of course, I never really accepted it completely because I'm like one of those really stubborn people that's always like, I don't know. I think my stubbornness has saved me from being completely idiotic my entire life, but I just never accepted anything really quickly. But I did turn feminist for like a week, really hardcore. Like, I believed everything, because that kind of thing. It was like full on Jewish feminism. Anyway, all that to say that, you know, the father said that made waves, and then Brock Turner only got 5 months, not even. It was not a lot. It was really not a lot. And people wanted this guy hanged and castrated, which is crazy because you're like, whoa, you know, this is really intense. You know, people have this desire to kill. I wonder where it comes from, lol. And then he went on at one point to do TED Talks. I'm gonna have to look at this. I think he did a TED Talk about like what it's like to be a rapist or something, or like how I didn't know about consent because I'm stupid and rape culture is real and men are naturally rapists, and I have to basically like kill my own masculinity and castrate myself in order to function in society with women. But I'm gonna have to look this up because I'm not completely sure. I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so I looked it up and he's not doing TED Talks. Sorry. But, okay, but I've seen other TED Talks definitely with, like, rapists. And I even saw one with, like, a rapist and a rapist and the rapee, raped, victim, raped. Oh, Jesus. Both of them, the man and the woman involved in a rape, were talking on it. It was a TED Talk, and I was sure that they were gonna get, because I saw that he might have done a speaking tour to be that, but I guess he got his money and now he's living, somewhere else. But they used, the survivors' story, they used it in the news. People were like reading it out while crying, and I just think that I can't believe that this is real, simply because of how much it was in the media, how the story, I don't know, it just sounds fake, to me. And I'm really not one of those people that's like, oh no, rape doesn't happen, and there's no such thing as misogynistic white men, there's no such thing as rape culture, blah, all that stuff, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that really this thing just seemed like it was fake the whole time. So that's my opinion, of course. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I just think it's an update in order to radicalize women because of how emotional it was and how much a lot of women were collectively involved because of Facebook and how it was really, people were talking about it, I think that's what they do, they collectivize women, but they collectivize them in the wrong energy, with their energy but channeled into the wrong end goal or end game. So, and the end game is feminism, which is a collectivization of women that is based in neuroses, which just drains their energy into self-enslavement. Yeah. So that was my thoughts about this, and it's really intense, and sorry if it's like, not totally like ASMR, because I'm trying to do ASMR on this channel, and people are like, yay, this is great, and here I am like, Bob Turner's fake, and it's like, okay, but thanks for listening anyway, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.